Hello and good afternoon, Gales. My name is Sterling Mitchell, and I'm stepping in today for Jay So, and I'll be covering the news. So, without further ado, here are our top 5 news stories of the week. So, the Queen's Relay for Life will be kicking off at 7 p.m. tonight for its annual 12-hour overnight celebration. Teams of approximately 10 to 15 people will have at least one member walking the track at all times, holding the team baton. Others can participate in events such as the Jello eating contest, the dodgeball contest, or the Harry Potter trivia. And this year, they already have 300 participants, raising over $60,000 for the Canadian Cancer Society. So best of luck to all those participating, and best of luck to all you who will be walking the course tonight. Moving on, in regards to AMS management, we would like to send our congratulations to Connor Bevins, Ben Rudson, and Joe Fonseca and Evan Truss for being elected into next year's AMS Board of Directors. In the words of this year's chair, Mike Blair, all candidates demonstrated considerable competency and understanding of the AMS during the nomination and election process. They can each be proud of the manner in which they represented themselves. For those of you concerned about the environment, President Wolf released the Queen's Sustainability Climate Action Plan, reaffirming its commitment to environmental sustainability. The Climate Action Plan establishes the emission targets and aims to reduce the university's greenhouse gas emissions by 35% in 2020 and reduce up to 70% by 2030. This will set the stage for the aspired climate neutrality of campus by 2040. In order to reach those goals, the university will be partnering up with Honeywell, an energy service company investing $10.7 million into an energy conservation program. In order to facilitate the implementation of this plan, Principal Wolf will appoint a vice principal to the chair of the new Climate Action Plan working group with students and campus representatives. To learn more about sustainability at the Queen's or the Climate Action Plan, feel free to visit the sustainability website or the principal's website. And for those of you concerned about St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up, that's exactly what our last story is about. Fast approaching, the day will be next Thursday, March 17th, filled with green pancakes, green shirts, and green face paint. Students will be selling sweet gear and accessories throughout the arc leading up to next Thursday, so be sure to grab some along the way. On behalf of Studio Q, we hope you get all decked out, but don't forget, please be safe, be smart, and stick with the buddy. Let's all make this an awesome St. Patrick's Day. The annual Hockey Helps the Homeless fundraiser took place last Friday, and with money raising for the local homeless and youth shelters in the area. This is a great cause, and next year they aim to reach higher goals over this year's $55,000. So if you guys are at all interested in playing some hockey, making new friends, and helping out a great cause along the way, be sure to check out the Hockey Helps the Homeless website. Now, coming up in the show, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll have Andrew Clark chatting with John Abrams, the winner of the Kingston Canadian Film Festival, for his film Jack the Tenor. And later on, Talissa will be bringing us up to speed on all the hottest pop culture news.
All right, folks, today we have a very special guest in the Studio Q newsroom. We have John Abrams, who submitted a film called The Ballad of Jack the Tenor. It's a comedy musical thriller murder show movie. It's a really fantastic movie. I actually just had the opportunity to see it today. Why don't you tell us about how this idea kind of got going?
Absolutely. You know, it's been an incredible time spending, it's been 8 years now for my undergrad at Queen's. I've been taking lots of different time to pursue a lot of my music career, which is sort of backing up a lot of this film, to be honest with you. It was a great collaboration. Myself and Will Culverwell, Jesse Shaw, Helena Wade, Lauren Winninger, and David Shannon. Actually, he's an Australia exchange student. He's just gone back recently. We came together, actually, with my wife, Alexandra, and created this quirky little musical comedy murder film called The Ballad of Jack the Tenor. And it really became this great collaboration of sort of this music and this history of music and that sort of art form bridging together with people I work with at the film program. And so it's been a fantastic time getting to work on it and then also having it exhibited. It's been very successful thus far, and we just keep finding that people are singing the songs constantly, and that's the the best comment that I think we can hear, because really the songs do tell the story in the film.
Now, this isn't your first taste of doing a musical or being involved in the music industry. You've done plenty of things. Why don't you tell us where that all began and who you worked with to end up where you are today?
Absolutely. Well, my brother and I, we started playing music when we were kids. Started touring when we were 9 and 11 years old, respectively. And so we're actually the fourth generation in our family touring and playing music on the road when we do. So it's called the Abrams Brothers. Well, actually, it's the Abrams now, but it's been historically known as the Abrams Brothers. And so we're actually we've been touring all over Canada, mostly in the United States when we were kids. So it's been a great experience for me, certainly getting to understand multiple cultures and pouring that into the songwriting. Of course, a lot in the UK, Europe, and Israel, 5 different times as well. So out of that, we've been able to create 4 different records over our career thus far, and grew up playing a lot of bluegrass, Americana, old country music, folk music, what have you. And of course, that makes sense, having spent a lot of time in Tennessee and Nashville, in Virginia, Kentucky when we were kids. But now we play sort of our own style of country music. It's very much country, and we have a new EP coming out in May and a single coming out on April 1st. We just signed with Warner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Appreciate
great,
it.
yeah.
We just signed with Warner before Christmas, and so we had a great team working with us behind the new project. And this is actually kind of the first stop on the radio and TV campaign for that project. So in conjunction with the Ballad of Jack the Tenor.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so you have taken a little while to get your degree here at Queen's in film.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us, like, what were you doing during your off years? You took a year of school, then a year off. What were you doing during that time?
Well, I spent a lot of time touring, really. James and I, we are predominantly, or certainly have always been known predominantly as a live band, and sort of whenever we recorded, we tried to capture that live spirit and that energy on recording. And so I'd be here for So I graduated high school in 2008, took a year to tour after that, started my Queen's degree in 2009, actually with my then girlfriend, now wife, and then sort of in and out. And it's been great sort of gravitating toward film and the film program at Queen's. I mean, it's an incredible program. I've learned a ton just by being there, but I also felt great every time I come back from touring to be able to contribute something artistically and culturally, even, to be able to put into the work that I do. And I think the Ballad of Jack the Tenor really is a bit of a culmination of a lot of those different influences. I also act as Jack in the film. I'm happy to say I'm nothing like Jack. Yeah. Jack being
I would hope not, yeah.
Psychopathic. I mean, the film is really, for anybody who hasn't seen it.
If you haven't seen it, do try to give it a try. It's a very, very good film.
Thanks,
yeah,
man. I appreciate it. So the film is about a guy who just has this passion for singing, and he's psychotic, and so he is on the waiting list to get into the community choir. It's sort of loosely based on Jack the Ripper. We said that was sort of the idea we had when we sat around the table. Okay. And then it sort of grew from there. And so basically he's on this vendetta to kill off the people on the waiting list in order to get himself a spot in the community choir. So it's sort of it's very aware of itself. It's very sort of it's sort of poking fun even at the concept of just if you've ever seen films like Waiting for Guffman, or where like musical theater and the level of involvement it takes to be in it. It's just sort of he's throwing himself into this community choir, right? So anyway, it just sort of ended up being this funny, really enjoyable film for us to create. We shot it all exclusively in Kingston, in and around Kingston, back in Sydenham, Ontario, at our farm property in Joyceville, where we grew up playing music. And so it was kind of perfect because a lot of the filming took place where we were growing up in our living room with 4 generations of family singing and playing. But this is totally turning that around, right? And suddenly I'm singing ballads about being this psychopathic, crazy guy, and in the same living room where we grew up singing gospel songs and bluegrass songs. It's just this totally weird and wonderful thing that happened.
That's such an interesting thing to be 11 years old and singing gospel and bluegrass songs. It's kind of like you'd never really assume that an 11-year-old would be into that kind of music. What got you into that in the first place? Was it your parents listening to that kind of music, or
what was it?
It
was the family style. I mean, like I said, we're the 4th generation on the road touring and playing music when we do. And that was, we grew up hearing our grandparents sing and play, and we actually at one time we had 3 generations in the band. So our grandfather played bass, and our dad played with us, and my brother and I, and our cousin played with us for a while, and so there's there's this real family bond that we share musically, and then we just sort of took it the next step from there, and then just started really putting ourselves out there and spending a lot of time developing our bluegrass chops, if you will. I like to call it like the school that we went to musically, right? So it was like going through boot camp, understanding a genre to a T. Spending a lot of time in Virginia. We actually recorded our first 2 records in Virginia, so in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley.
Wow.
And so you can't help but eat, breathe, and sleep the music when you're down there, and that was what we.
There is a certain style of music down there. It's a very folky kind of place,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
And so that really lends itself well to country music, and this next record that we're putting out, it's self-titled The Abrams, and we did that because we just had a name change, I guess a name shortened to The Abrams from the Abrams brothers. And that was really because a lot of people call us the Abrams anyway. And this music that we're introducing, it's very firmly in the country genre, so it feels very fresh, a fresh introduction of who we are. So we're very excited about it. I think it's it really, I know we were talking about this earlier, but the concept of creating art. And it similarly relates to the way we try to create Jack the Tenor. You have certain constraints, right? You always have constraints, whether it be, your budget, or whether it be, that would be the case for film, or in our case with, creating music for country radio, commercial country radio. You have, a certain genre format to kind of think about and create within, and there's a beautiful thing that happens when you ride the line artistically between. Your art and our history and the harmonies that we grew up singing and playing fiddle and banjo and mandolin and incorporating who we are and our past into this very clear family of music, which is country, and it's been developing for 100 years now, right? So to add to that in a strong way, you really need to ride the line between something fresh but also something familiar for audiences, and there's a wonderful architecture to creating pop songs or pop country songs. That if you can just hit that line right, it's very rewarding, and it's some of the hardest songwriting that James and I have ever done. It's a wonderfully rewarding process.
Yeah, no kidding. The audio on that is absolutely fantastic. I was starstruck when I saw it. It was incredible. Yeah. And so, by the way, congratulations on winning Best Picture at the Kingston Canadian Film Festival. It certainly deserves it. I certainly would have nominated that myself.
Thank you.
And I just want to, it's a 14-minute video or short film. Mm-hmm. How long does that take to produce, and from the very beginning to the very end? How long would something like that take?
Exactly. Well,
must be quite a while.
We shot it in a weekend, but it was really careful planning that made it happen, and that's sort of how I approach any film that I direct or produce or both. I try and approach it. I try and make sure that there's less work on the day, and so we spent a couple weeks preparing shot for shot exactly how we wanted to execute this thing, because we knew it was going to be a little bit ambitious. Trying to it's basically 3 music videos strung together in a way, if you think about that. And so having some experience that way, it made things a little bit easier. But incorporating a narrative into it was the more challenging process. So while the shooting was short, it was over the course of a weekend, it's the music that my wife Alex and I, we wrote. And so, sitting down with her and trying to craft this story in and around really memorable melodies and melodies that people hopefully go home singing and are catchy, it was a really challenging and great process, and it was a great project for both her and I. We just got married in August. We've been together for thank you very much. We've been together for 7 years, 6.5 years before we got married, and so she's a great singer-songwriter, and we've certainly shared a passion for music together. And so this was a really great outlet for us in between all of the stuff going on in our lives. And of course, with the incredible team that worked on the film, that the Queen's department. I mean, they're just an amazing bunch, and I'm so blessed to have been able to work with them this year. And the group on Jack the Tenor, the group on another film I'm working on right now called Baron. There's a lot of talent, and I'm just I'm very fortunate to be just able to share the room, even having conversations and collaboration with these people.
It's great to finish off your undergrad career on a high note, so to speak.
Absolutely. I'm graduating.
What do you have, just briefly, what do you have planned for your future?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So certainly the new record coming out, we're going to be touring in the coming year, so it certainly times out really well. Graduating in June and sort of just moving almost immediately after, or sort of simultaneous right now, going on this radio tour, that we're sort of starting right here at Studio Q, which is awesome. It's going to be a busy year of touring for us and promoting the new record. But there's lots of interests. I've certainly been interested in continuing to study other things alongside my music career. My brother and I have always maintained that keeping our education going is a key process in keeping work ethic going and reading and just constantly being able to write. I've never really seen them as mutually exclusive. I've tried to make school and music work together, and school and filmmaking obviously work together because I'm in the program. So a lot more of that, but also interested in potentially getting my MBA as well, or law school. I mean, these are all things that I do on a daily basis in the business end of music too. So it's a lot of interest. Can be a bit of a dilemma sometimes, but it's a lot of fun.
All you need is time, right? Time's the one thing that
I always say to my friends, well, I haven't had, I've had about 6 hours off in the last 8 months, but that's good.
Well, you're a high energy guy. You don't mind it at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's particularly been busy the last year. We've been working with our producer Gavin Brown in Toronto. He did 3 Days Grace, Billy Talent, Metric, Lady Gaga on the Midway State. He's a phenomenal pop rock producer, and he, like us, we're very tenacious, and so it's all about filling the day with work and developing the sound and developing new music, and then I literally take that attitude back to Queens and it's whether it be I'll be out on set. 2 weeks ago I just shot a scene where I fell through the ice north of Highway number 7. It was pretty cold, I can tell you that right now. But that kind of tenacity, I think, lends itself well to production courses and studying things like media, where you really have to. It kind of is a dog eat dog world out there, so you have to have that kind of that aggressive passion and energy. No matter what.
And willingness to try new things,
exactly.
like falling through the ice.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
Sort of the other thing was out of necessity. I thought, well, I'm going to act in this film because I can't ask anybody to fall through the ice.
Exactly.
So it was kind of like one of those things. But
exactly.
No, that kind of tenacity has lent itself well to working with Gavin, working with Warner Music, working with this team at Queens that I continue to work with, and even just working in life. In my marriage and in my relationships, my friendships, in my partnership and friendship with my brother and all the different parts of my life. It's been about really dedicating and working hard at making those, putting those at the forefront of my life.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Well, John, it's been a pleasure having you on here.
Andrew,
that's been
so
great. Yeah,
okay,
thank you
really
so much. Yeah,
that.
John Abrams, undergraduate student at Queen's University and winner of the Kingston Canadian Film Festival for Best Picture in his film, The Ballad of Jack the Tenor. If you haven't had a chance to see it, definitely give it a try. Now we're going to have a look at pop culture with Talissa. Take it away.
Welcome back. I'm Talissa, and today on Pop Culture, we're going to be breaking down some recent headlines in the entertainment world. This week, we celebrated International Women's Day, recognizing the social, economic, cultural, and political achievement of women all around the world. Lots of celebrities have voiced their support. As a UN Women's Goodwill Ambassador, Emma Watson has spoke on behalf of He for She, the UN's campaign for gender equality. Many others, including Taylor Swift and Miley Cyrus, also tweeted to contribute to an open discussion for the gender equality and feminism. There are also some exciting things happening in Kingston right now. This weekend, the QDC dance show is going up, so be sure to check it out. This upcoming week, the screening room will also be playing some recent Academy Award-winning films, including The Big Short, Spotlight, and Brooklyn, for anyone who missed their regular screening in theaters earlier this year. Lastly, we just all need to take a moment to recognize the greatness that was Jonah Hill's SNL performance. He got on stage with rapper Future to perform the hit Jumpman. He killed Toronto natives Drake's part, so who knows? Maybe we can expect another performance sometime soon. Maybe in a future movie. Only time will tell. This has been called Pop Culture. Thanks for watching, and now check out this commercial.
So we're part of CUPID, Queen's Project on International Development, and we're part of a national campaign called 5 Days for the Homeless. where we camp out for 5 days and we fundraise 24/7 to raise money for the Kingston Youth Shelter. So the Kingston Youth Shelter is an emergency shelter for youth aged 16 to 24. And why we're doing this is because they recently just had a fire and their girls' dorm was destroyed. All the mattresses, the personal care items, and clothing. So unfortunately at this point it doesn't look like it's going to be covered by insurance. So most of this money will go towards getting the girls back in the shelter.
Well, on behalf of the Studio Q News team, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you again, John, for joining us on the show, and we'd love to have you again another time in the future. That's all the news this week. We'll see you again next week at the same time. From Studio Q, see you later.